That'll make AAA happy. That was very crucial in this chase. Cruz Petragon, he's already ahead of me, so my driver stopping him gives me a shot at getting around him. But Cruz got a great race car. Looked like it burned itself up at the other end, but so was Robert Hight, putting out cylinders, burning pistons. But that was a drag race, and I even looked at Cruz's roll. He rolled deep. Robert never rolls deep because Robert likes that lane choice, and that's going to be critical possibly to win this race here if it gets any hotter.
Well,
good job, Robert.
Cruz Petragon had the race won, but you see a cylinder out. As soon as Robert hit the throttle, that thing was on 7 cylinders, and Cruz was marching away at that point. But then at the 330-foot point, you saw Cruz have to backpedal as that thing got loose. As soon as it did, Robert was able to drive around. It was burning itself up, but still good enough to get into the semifinals.
Mike Dunn, you got to regain your position now as an analyst here. Forrest is killing you.
Oh, I may have to actually work now. Gee, my knees.
Well,
okay.
Let's go with this. The CSK traction area dropped cylinder. Can you do it?
It says a cylinder becomes too rich. There's too much fuel in the air-to-fuel mixture, which prevents the spark plug or spark plugs from firing. And you got to remember that these are preset on the fuel system. They don't have electronic fuel systems that can adjust accordingly. It is set before the run, and if you miss on that setup, it puts a cylinder out, and you're just dead in the water sometimes. But luckily for Robert, he had enough to get around Cruz.
And Gary, what's he got to say?
Well, Robert, you were telling me earlier this weekend how, Eric Medlin won 2 years ago, John won here last year, and how much you want to win here. Is this car capable of doing it today?
Yeah, we're keeping going. We're in the semis, and anything can happen. We just need to get one of these Ford Mustangs in the winner's circle and keep it kind of in our family here. But the Pedragons are tough. I hit the throttle there. It moved all over the place because it had a cylinder out. We got lucky because you don't beat Cruz Pedragon all the time when you run like that. So we got a freebie, and maybe we can win this thing and get somebody a big screen TV from Brand Source.
There you go. Thanks.
They loaded the car up, and Robert Hight and a couple of the guys took a camera with them and were nice enough to show us what goes on after the event. Pull all the equipment in, climb in the car, find yourself a driver. In fact, Robert Hight drove part of the way there and part of the way in the big rig.
Tell you, anytime you get to drive the big rig, that's always fun. But then there's some much-needed sleep. The crew guys don't get much, and sometimes they got to sleep on the road. But that is a beautiful drive from Seattle all the way down here to Sonoma.
Comes down here, does all of his PR obligations. There's a lot of work to being a driver. It's not just the in-the-cockpit stuff. Jimmy Prock looks across, says they are ready. John Force on the line and watching. Tony Pedragon, and the winner will take over second in the points just of this round right here. Hight, Pedragon. And put that one down for Robert Hight, 419, 294 miles an hour. He hasn't won a race since the Winter Nationals, but he is looking at that possibility now. You're right, John.
Like Robert did his job. Usually Robert's shallow trying to get that lane choice. But he knows how Tony is on that Christmas tree. So Robert took a little bit out of it, not much. And, of course, he had the number to get the win anyway. Good job by Jimmy Prock and that Auto Club team.
Well, if you remember the previous round, Robert Hight dropped a cylinder as soon as he stepped on the throttle. There was no issue with that this round. That thing was lit on all 8 cylinders. Tony Pedragon gave him a race for about 300 feet before he started spinning the tires, and that allowed Robert Hight to get into the final round.
And so as with
anybody's race here.
He just keeps going, doesn't he?
Provide spoil just told me because Robert's car was eating the blower belt off.
As Robert climbs out, they start the engines back at the starting line. It's going to be 2 single-car teams back there. Tim Wilkerson and Gary Densham. Wilkerson, the points leader, and he just continues to go around. But that man, Gary Densham, is 3-2 over Wilkerson when they match up. Let's go to Gary Gerald. He has Robert.
Robert, we saw some of the video. You driving the big rig, the boys coming down from Seattle, that spectacular drive. Now you're making it all pay off, going to the finals. Your thoughts about that?
Just kind of like John Force in the old days, driving the rig and working with the crew, just getting it from race to race, traveling with the team. It's just a lot of fun. I tell you what, it brings me back to when I worked on the car, but tell you what, there ain't nothing better than driving this Auto Club Ford, and hopefully we can win this race. This is my home track.
And by the way, you just went to second in points again.
Yes.
I just find this to be a remarkable number, Mike Dunn. Gary Densham, 3-2 racing Wilkerson, this season. I mean, that's a bit of a surprise, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it would have been last year, but this year, I'll tell you what, Gary Densham has a race car, you know. And what's amazing is these are probably the two of the smaller budgets on the entire circuit, single car teams, as you mentioned, Paul, but yet Tim Wilkerson's #1 in the points. Gary Densham, by going rounds today, has moved from 8th in the points all the way up to 6th. And they're doing it on a small budget compared to, you know, Team Schumacher, Team Force, Team Petragon. They just keep going out there and winning rounds, and I like seeing that.
Now, this was a team, though, that got rushed a little bit. Shorter turnaround. The team was changing an engine, but I'll tell you what, this team has also gelled together this year. They got a lot of chemistry, and Tim Wilkerson, calm and steady behind the wheel, no doubt will be able to get through this run.
Look at Gary Densham, the whole shot. We're going to the final.
What do you think? Party, as Mike Dunn says. Marty, the one-man party. John Force, the party that taught Marty the party. Unbelievable. Gary Densham, I was just talking to his son, Stevie, and he said that his dad's been on the game all day on the tree, you know, with that going out there with consistent 70, 80 lights, and to watch him go up there and win on a hole shot, especially against Wilkerson, who's a veteran. Wilkerson's car ran good. Gary got the win. That sets up a heck of a final. Two teammates, Robert Hight and Gary Densham, both of them drove that AAA car at one time, so see what happens.
Second hole shot win of the season for Gary Densham. He's never won a race with his own team, and having his best ever Sonoma race.
What a great job. That was a situation. Neither driver had great reaction times. They're both a little bit off, but Gary still had 300ths of a second advantage, and that was the difference at the stripe.
Gary Densham will face Robert Hight in the finals here at Infineon Raceway.
Powerade Drag Racing Series. Nitro. Supercharged, powerful, loud, earth-shaking. And these are the finals. It'll start with a funny car final at the Fram Autolite Nationals. Robert Hight, right side of your screen, and Gary Densham over on the left side. There is Densham backing up. He's won 8 funny car races in his career, but never with his own team, and he's racing one of his former team members. That, of course, would be Robert Hight, who is now 2nd in the points, and Robert Hight last won in the Winter Nationals. If he can do it, this will be Robert's 10th career win.
Talked with Greg Amaral, a student of Gary Densham back in his teaching days, and the man who helps him on the tune-up here, about how they're approaching this race. And he says there's a little fear and there's a little trepidation about this car's ability to go down the racetrack because they've put more primary weight on the clutch to try to duplicate what they did in the second round when they went 415. But Greg told me, you know, Jimmy's going to be swinging for the fence too, so we got to make sure we make a reasonable effort.
When they talk about putting more primary weight on, that means it's going to apply the clutch just a little bit harder. The key there is they don't want to apply it too hard and smoke the tires. If it doesn't, it'll run quicker.
Robert Hight.
Good job. Good job. Way to go, guys. Good job, everybody.
No party for Marty, but you can bet that guy Jimmy Prock is going to party, eh, Dave?
Oh, you know it. I tell you what, this has been a great day for that team. Great job by John Force Racing now as they've won their 3rd consecutive event. Eric Medlin a couple of years ago, John last year, and now Robert Hight. Jimmy, what does this win mean? I saw a lot of, well, I saw a nice little sigh.
Yeah, it felt good to win, you know. It's really nice to come here and win. You know, I think Eric's here with us, and you know, it's great to win, and I'm sure he was there helping us because we had a few breaks today, and crew did a great job. All my other teammates helped out, and I like to dedicate this win to Dan Davis.
Now, we know Eric's going to be here. We got an ice cream social coming up after Top Fuel as they raise money for the Eric Medlin Scholarship Fund given to a local high school racer out here.
And I'm guessing you're going to be first in line, eh, Reefer?
You know it.
Robert Hight pulls to a stop.